Welcome to the Raise podcast. I'm Carol Barwick. We're here to raise your confidence and inspire your creativity. Each episode, we will have a different guest who will be discussing our Raise word. The Raise word is a word that will encourage you or empower you and at times inspire you to explore the word a little more for yourself. Well, hello everybody and welcome to the Raise podcast. I'm Carol Barwick. We've looked at some fantastic words recently, and the word that we're going to look at today kind of encapsulates a lot of what we do really on the Raise podcast. I think it's the word affirmation, and we're going to be talking to the brilliant Richard Saloka all about it. Hi Richard, how are you doing?
I'm all right, Carol. Thank you for inviting me.
You are so welcome. My word, it's taken us a while to get to this point, hasn't it? With many affirming words in between. But here we are. Before we get into all that you do around affirmation, Richard, what does the word affirmation mean to you?
Thank you, Carol. Just before I jump into that, if you don't mind, I would like to do something that I do on a regular basis, which is something I also think the listeners would benefit from that. And that is a quick affirmation.
Nice.
I'll
Lovely.
just
Go for it.
I'll just invite you to just join me. Just want you to place your hand on your chest, close your eyes and take slow, deep breaths and just repeat these words. Today, I am grounded in peace, strengthened from within and guided by courage. No matter what comes my way, I trust in my ability to rise, to grow, and to thrive. I am calm, I'm courageous, I am whole. Thank you.
No, I'm still there. Wow. I love that. I am calm. I am courageous. What was the last one?
I'm whole.
I'm whole. Amen. What a lovely way to start. I hope everybody did that. The great thing about a podcast is you can always go back and rewind it. So I hope rewind. That's old fashioned, isn't it? Whatever you do now, whatever the kids do these days. Oh dear. Thank you. So what does the word affirmation mean to you?
So for me, affirmation is a tool that enables us to harness the power of words, draw strength from within, reshape negative thought patterns, and promote positive mindsets. So it's sort of like a tool to just change the way we think about ourselves and about any situation.
I know I've just asked you to repeat something else. Can you repeat it again? Because there's like a podcast in like every one of those words that you just said. So just go through them again. That's so powerful.
So besides the traditional way besides the traditional way affirmation is defined, for me, it is the way or it is a tool that enables me to harness the power of words, draw strength from within, reshape negative thought patterns, and promote positive mindset. So hopefully I'll get to touch on some of those elements in that. But I think over the past couple of years, that's how I've come to define affirmation for myself.
I think the one that really sticks out to me is harness the power of words, because I think that's very much what I seek to do with this podcast. And I often get frustrated because I want to explain what we do with a word, and I often start using my hands like it's kind of exploding, because I feel like it kind of, we take one word and then we kind of squeeze as much out of it as possible. But I think what you're saying about harnessing the power of the word is very true. It's not just about squeezing as much out of it as possible. It's about getting as much power out of it as possible. And I love that.
On the power of words, for me, understanding the power of words is sort of like a prerequisite to understanding affirmation, because when you understand that words are spiritual,
Yeah.
When you understand the power of words, then it makes it easier for you to accept the power of affirmations as well. Being a Christian, there are key Bible verses that it's just helped me drill in and understand the power of words. And the first one is about our salvation. And I think my whole concept about affirmation comes from how we become saved, which is in the book of Romans 10. The Bible says that if you believe in your heart and affirm with your mouth, then you're saved. So there
Mm.
are two components. There's the believing part of it, and there's the affirming part of it. Then we're saved. So it says, if you say it with your mouth, or if you declare with your mouth the Lord Jesus, believing in your heart that God has raised him, then you're saved. So for me, that is where my understanding of affirmation comes from, is there's a belief component, and there's also the vocal component, the word component of it. Um, I think there's another Bible verse that says, we having the same spirit of faith believe and therefore speak. So it's almost like if I believe something about myself or about any situation, it
Mm.
naturally comes out from my words. It actually plays out in my words, rather. So the Bible says that out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So there is a close relationship between our thoughts, between whatever our belief systems are, and
Mm.
our choice of words. And I think they are sort of like, it's a cycle where one affects the other and the other affects the initial one. So
Mm.
the way we think about ourselves plays out in our words, and our words are also vital in reshaping the way we think about ourselves.
Mm. Which is interesting because often we want to use affirmation to give confidence, don't we? But
Mm.
I wonder how difficult that is if fundamentally we're not really that happy with ourselves, or we don't have the faith to see the good things in ourselves. How does affirmation work then, do you think?
So, I mean, if you look at the origin of the word affirmation, it comes from a Latin word, and that Latin word means to strengthen or to make steady. So
Okay.
basically, that word in it's when you think about the actual definition, it's an assertion of what we believe is true.
Okay.
What you believe is true is subjective to anything. So, for instance, I draw truths about me from scriptures.
Yeah.
So, regardless of what my reality is, I subject that to what the Bible says about me because I'm a Christian.
Okay.
Now, for other people, they are fundamentally drawn to negatives. I think all humans, we are to an extent, where
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like that whole thing about a half filled, half empty cup, where we're drawn more towards what's empty, we're drawn more towards what's lacking. And what affirmation is just asserting what is already, is you're not trying. So there's a difference between a disengagement aspect of coping. I'll touch about that in detail in a bit, where you're denying what is. So you're not saying I'm not weak. You're
Mm.
saying I'm strong, and there's a difference between them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a difference between trying to deny what is and calling what be not as though they are. And I think what affirmation for me is rising above what others would call reality and drawing strength, which is why I go back to what I said initially about how I define affirmation, is drawing strength from within. So
Mm.
yes, on the outward, I might look weak. Yes, everything, might be falling apart. But what I tend to do is to step away from that seeming reality and draw strength from within and remind myself that, you know what, I can get through this day, which is why one of my favorite affirmations is I'm courageous. So
Mm.
just going back to that, with affirmation, you are not denying reality, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not denying reality, you're sort of rising above it.
Interesting. And I'm quiet because I'm thinking, because I mean, I just go back to, I was saying about harnessing the power of words and that affirmation. Of course, I'd not really thought about it, but that makes complete sense that you're firming up. So you're kind of, because I think sometimes, and maybe in some cultures, affirmation is almost, it's seen like magic words. So if I say I am courageous, I will be it even if I don't feel it. But what you're saying is it's a way of bringing it into being, but there's a bit more foundation
Yes.
to it.
Yes. So you know how I said that my concept of our affirmation has a belief component and the
Mm,
component or the words.
yeah,
Sometimes we focus so much on the words where there is no belief system. There is no, there's something within that is
yeah.
missing. Now, the science, one of the most common psychological theories behind affirmation is a theory that is called self-affirmation theory.
Mm,
With the self-affirmation theory, it does suggest that individuals can maintain their sense of self-worth or integrity by affirming their core values, qualities, or strengths. So the key component is you're not calling something that doesn't exist.
yeah.
You are just affirming something that already exists. Now, the problem is it depends on what you look at. We go back to the half empty, half filled cup. Sometimes we find 1,000 reasons to justify that, oh, we're not strong enough.
Mm,
And we forget that one incident or that one event or that one aspect of our lives that we've shown strength. We forget,
mm,
countless situations where we've shown strength, where we've survived something that it's unimaginable. And I guess that's how the human mind is, where it easily plays all the negatives in our mind, easily
mm,
tells us, oh, no, you can't do that, or you can't get through today. But if you think about the day before you survived, the day before you survived, last year you survived, this you survived, that, then you begin to draw strength from that. Then you begin to remind yourself that, you know what, I think I'm able to do this. I think I'm able to do this. So I think with affirmation, it's more than the words. There's a belief part of it. It comes from a position of being true and honest to yourself,
mm.
where you're not trying to cancel what is, you're trying to rise above what is. I know we've mentioned the word courage a few times already. And if you think about what the word courage means, it's not it is in spite of a difficult situation.
Mm,
It is not the absence of events or things happening,
mm,
in spite of it. So you acknowledge that, yes, there's something going wrong here, or there's something not right about, this event or about
mm,
today. And from that position of accepting what is real, from that position of accepting whatever the facts are, you rise above it, if that makes sense.
it does absolutely. I mean, I what I find interesting, and I'm very much in this space at the moment, is I wonder if we revert to the negative stuff because the positive stuff takes more mental energy to say kind of even to rise above it. Sometimes that takes the most mental energy. And when you're in a difficult mental health space, when you're not mentally healthy, it feels like it's going to be too difficult to be positive. What are your thoughts on that?
So I think I'm just gonna share this with you.
Mm,
Now, in as much as I've always understood the power of words in my life and the power of affirmation, I felt like for me to be able to help someone else, I need to understand the core principles. I need to understand the science behind it.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm currently doing a master's of psychology at the moment.
Mm,
And one of the researches I did recently was on coping.
yeah.
And the reason why I chose to do something on coping was I wanted to see if affirmation was a negative coping mechanism or a
Okay.
positive coping mechanism.
Okay.
So I wanted to see at what point does affirmation become denial, and at what
Yeah.
point is it active coping? Because
Okay.
it's just a slight difference. You could be saying almost the same thing,
Mm,
but one is pure denial and one is an active coping mechanism.
okay.
Now, where it comes in is so far there is a denial aspect of it, and the denial aspect of it plays from within first. What you're saying is actually not as important as what's happening in your mind or in your thoughts or what's going on within you. So, for instance, something happens and there's fear. Let's say you lose a loved one.
Mm.
There's fear. There is, oh my God, this cannot happen. Oh my
Yeah.
God, this is not true. This is not true. My mom is not dead. That is denial.
Yeah.
The easiest way to know that you're in denial is the use of the word not. When you use not, N-O-T, begins to appear in your affirmation, chances are you're in denial.
Okay.
Because what you're attempting to do is you're attempting to reject what we are wired to seek safety. We're wired. One of the basic human needs is safety. So this
Yeah.
physical safety, mental safety. So what happens is when we're in the face of a difficult situation, we retreat to a place where we want safety. We don't want to accept that this is real. We don't want to accept that we've just lost our job. We don't want to accept that so what we're doing then is we're trying to get rid of what's happening, not rise above it.
Okay. Yeah.
So anytime you're trying to get rid of the situation, you're trying to, convince yourself that this is a dream. This is not happening. So you hear things like, no, this cannot be happening, or no, I'm not sick, or no, I'm going to be okay. Part of it is wishful thinking. Most of it is denial. Now, active coping actually accepts the reality of it. You actually process the emotion of it. And affirmation can help you accept the reality of it. Sometimes just accepting that, you know what, I'm not okay today is not where you should dwell.
Yeah.
Or is a good starting point.
Yeah.
Just accepting that, you know what, this has actually happened. I think, yes, it's happened. Okay, it happened.
Take a breath. Yeah.
Happened. As painful as it is, sometimes you could start crying. It hurt physically, but it's happened. And once you're able to accept that it's happened, that is the initial part of it. The second part of it is rising above it, where what you're doing then is, you know what? It is well. It is well. It is well. That's one of my favorite ones. Well, or, I'm strong. I'm strong. I'm going to get through today. I'm going to get through today. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. And when you know that for an affirmation to be effective, it's not a show. It's not something I'm trying to prove a point. I'm not trying to tell myself that it will work or anything like that. So oftentimes it starts off with very gentle, like I'm murmuring. It starts off within my mind. Probably the voice, the vocal aspect of it is not, you wouldn't hear me if you were next to me. So I'm just going, it's okay. It's okay, Richard. You've got this. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And what happens is, as I'm telling myself, first of all, I've accepted what's happened. And I keep telling myself that it is well. I'm strong and I'm courageous. I'm strong and I'm courageous. Now, my choice of words accepts that this incident, this situation is real. But I also know that I am courageous. I also know I can rise above this. And I start speaking to myself. I start speaking to myself. And I realize that the more I do that, I draw strength from within. And that is more of an active coping mechanism.
I don't know about you, but I am feeling so affirmed having spoken and listening to Richard today. If you're looking for some affirmation, then as we said, I really believe the podcast does harness the power of our words, and we have over 75 episodes now for you to listen to. So find us on your favourite listening platform, and we're also on YouTube. Back to the episode. Okay, so we're just talking about these active coping mechanisms and also denial. It's interesting because I did a little bit of health psychology, and they talked about denial being a coping mechanism. They said that in some places it has been seen as effective as painkillers and that kind of thing, which I found really fascinating. And I think denial is often, I wonder actually if denial is a starting point, and then you realize that, okay, no, actually the starting point, as you talked about, needs to be the kind of acceptance. But I think we go to denial very quickly, don't we? Because we don't want it to have happened.
Yes, I think in one of the stages of grief, the initial stage is denial.
Mm,
And when anything happens, I think our normal response to any negative situation would be denial.
mm.
The problem is dwelling there. The
Yeah,
problem
yeah,
is
absolutely.
how
Yeah.
long you spend. The problem is how long you spend there.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so with denial, yes, it would happen naturally, but how do you move away from there?
Mm, yeah.
And if you dwell in denial, it's almost like for someone that loses their job and they're in denial, they end up with there are lots of other bad or destructive behaviors that accompany that. So some people go into gambling, some people go into addiction, some
Yeah.
go into so it's all an attempt to get rid of what is.
It's escapism, isn't it? It's just,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So in as much as the initial part, yes, it's okay. However, it falls under what they will call a disengagement coping mechanism.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it falls which you're not actively addressing the problem. You're
Yeah.
not actively seeking help because for someone that is in denial, chances are that they would not, actively seek help if it's needed. So if it's someone that's got an addiction problem, they
Yeah.
wouldn't actively ask for help. For someone that is going through trauma of some kind, or for someone that is just had an accident or anything that, horrible that you could think about in life, once you're in denial, it does stop you from seeking the right kind of help
Mm,
that you need. And one of the reasons why denial can be effective comes back to the power of words.
mm.
Because what you're doing is there's something about uh, uh, um, reframing. It works well within cognitive behavioral therapy,
Yeah.
within CBT, which is one of the most popular psychological interventions, is cognitive reframing, where
Yeah.
you're trying to change negative thought patterns.
Mm,
I think the neuroimaging or the neuroscience into it
yeah.
explains it under neuroplasticity, where you're changing the way the brain is wired. You're changing
Yeah.
the
You're
pathway,
changing the thought patterns, aren't you?
the
Literally
thought
changing
patterns and
them.
all
Yeah.
that. So in the initial phase, that's what denial would do. So
Mm,
I see how some kind of affirmation, even if it's denial, might be a bit beneficial, but that would just be in the initial phase of any.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's recognizing that denial is part of it, but as you
Mm.
said, it needs to be
You
it
need to
needs to
move
be
from
like the
there.
smallest step before acceptance, which is a very kind of is much broader step, isn't it? And then forward from there. So you don't want it to be a bit that denial can't be a foundation. That's not a good um way forward. But denial can be a tiny little step to the next bit, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so in terms of, I'm just trying to see if there's anything that, so I'm just thinking about affirmation and why it works. So I've talked about our belief system
Mm,
and us being able to believe what we're saying. Now, the choice of words as well also is important.
yeah,
Within what we do, within our card game and what we do, there are some set of cards that, as opposed to using I am, we use I choose to be.
yeah. Can
Uh,
you just take a step back and just tell us about the card game? Because this is how we initially met, and this is important. And I don't want us to get to the end of the episode and you not have told us about that. So can you just tell us a little bit about that and then go back? Is that if that's okay? So you get your bit.
okay. So we launched the card game towards the end of last year called By Your Words card game.
Mm,
Now, the game, it draws on most of the things that we've spoken about
yeah,
to change the way we view ourselves and the way we view others. Now, we believe that we can change our world by our words. The cards are made up of three set of cards. The first ones are referred to as your I am cards.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why we went with I am is when you think about affirmation, it has to be in the present for it to be effective.
Yeah.
So I am going to be strong is not effective. It's a wishful kind of thinking. It's something
yeah.
in the future where you might never get into, you might never get to. But I am strong is present. It's in the now. We have 25 set of cards, carefully chosen words, and with illustrations to match the affirmation on them. These are the I am cards. Now, I believe that anything you put after I am is what you believe is true about you, positive or negative. So if I ask you, Carol, tell me about yourself, and you go, I am this, I'm that, whatever you put after it, somehow you've convinced yourself that it's true. And what you're doing is you are reaffirming it. Now, remember we said affirmation is basically just reaffirming what already is.
Yeah.
So it's calling true what already is. So you're not trying to come up with anything. You're just affirming what you believe is true. So anything you put after I am is what you believe is true. And there is one way we play the game, which is designed to test how well you speak positively about yourself. That one is called I am. All it is you draw a card and you make an affirmation, and it needs to start with I am. So it helps us practice being kind to ourselves. It helps us practice positive affirmation, because I guess for a lot of people, it's not a natural thing to do. So through a gaming, platform, through a fun and exciting gameplay, you could go, I'm courageous, I'm brave, I'm lovely, I'm lovable, I'm beautiful. So you start saying all these positive things about yourself. Again, that creates an awareness. For you to draw benefit from affirmations, it has to be a habit. It has to be continuous. It has to be something that is part of your daily routine. So that's the first set of cards. Now we have another set of cards referred to as you are cards. What we did with the you are cards was we did a quick survey. We asked people, what do you wish was said to you the most growing up?
Okay.
And some of the themes that came up was you're important, you're loved, you're cherished. And what we did was we picked the top 5 of the things that people wish, was said to them the most. And those are the things that we put in as you are cards. So besides speaking positively about yourself, we're trying to encourage, speaking positively about others as well.
Yeah.
One of the benefits of that is in a family setting, if you're playing with friends, if you're playing with colleagues or anyone, it makes you aware of how you speak about others as well. And it is easy for us to remember all the negative things about our loved ones, and we'll be quick to judge them. We'll be quick to remind them how dumb they are and what they've done wrong. But the same person could have 1,000 positive attributes that we never mention it to them. So that was our way of reminding everyone that, you need to take out time to speak positively about others as well. So those are your you are cards. Now we have the trial and triumph cards and the vice and virtue cards. Now the trial cards are 5 mental health related issues that at some point most people would deal with. So we have things like depression, we've got failure, we've got fear, we've got rejection as well. And now the triumph cards are a way to teach you how to deal with those difficult situations. And those triumph cards are not I am. The words on them are I choose to be.
Okay.
So for instance, you've got, and they all work in pairs. So you've got 5 different colors. You've got the yellow, the blue, the orange cards, the purple cards. So you've got 5 different color sets, and each of those cards are all different issues or different things that people struggle with.
Okay.
So those are your trial cards. Now, if you look at the triumph cards, the color that goes with that would have the right affirmation to rise above that trial.
Ah, okay. So I've played this with my son, but we've only played it a couple of times so far. So that's brilliant.
So
Excellent. So I'll look at that with him.
have a look at it. So if you look at, for
Mm,
instance, like okay, let me go through some of the cards, like some of my favorite ones. There's a card that says depression. That's a
mm,
trial card. Yeah. So I think that is possibly like the yellow one. Let's just say it's the yellow card.
hmm.
It's depression. That's your trial card. Now, the triumph card that cancels that says, I choose to be courageous.
Okay. Yeah.
The reason why we went with that word, courage, is because courage would not, whatever is led you to being depressed on that day, courage does not cancel it. Courage does not dismiss it.
Yeah.
Courage says, yes, I could see I'm having, an awful day, but I choose to be courageous.
Mm,
Now, where that's come from was earlier on in my studies in psychology, I decided to look into affirmations and look into words and the choice of words as well to
mm.
ensure that whatever we're putting out in the game is actually beneficial and not just fun.
Yeah.
There used to be what was called behavioral or behaviorism. And what
Mm.
behaviorism was it's the way you train animals. So it's like a reward and punishment kind of thing.
That like Pavlov, the dogs and oh,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So behaviorism, it's almost like if anything happens to you, how do you respond to it? Eh,
Mm,
so behaviorism in face of depression, behaviorism would almost predict the behavior that this person will run away, or this person will do this, or this person will do that, and
mm.
does not account for anything different.
Okay.
Behaviorism will tell you that for someone that there's something about personality traits, and one of the personality traits is neuroticism. And people that are neurotic, for instance, have high emotions, and they're considered being prone to being depressed or something like that.
Mm,
Now, behaviorism would say, oh, because this person is neurotic, this person is expected in the face of a trial, in the face of depression, to act in this way.
mm,
What behaviorism doesn't take into account is cognitive psychology, is what's happening in your mind, is your thought pattern, is what's
mm.
going on inside. Now, when you say, I choose to be, what happens is automatically you realize that you're not handicapped. You realize that whatever is happening to you, your response still sits within what you can control. So
Yeah.
yes, I might not be able to control events around me. I might not be able to control what has led me to this point, but what I can control is where I go from here.
Yeah. So
So
by handicapped, you're talking about not having the ability to
not
do,
being able
yeah.
to do anything about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
not being able to do anything about it.
Yeah, yeah.
So you don't feel like I can't do anything about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's like it's taken the power away. So this is giving the power back, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I choose to be automatically it's almost like you realize that actually I could do something about this. So
Yeah.
one, you accept that I might not be courageous today, but I choose to be courageous.
Mm,
Another one is rejection. And the choice of word we've gone with, the card that cancels rejection says, I choose to be enough. Now, the
mm,
reason why we've gone with that word was I felt like when someone experiences rejection several times, what happens is there is that sense of there's something wrong with me. For me to be rejected again and again and again, probably by a spouse or by a family member or by anyone, there's got to be something wrong with me. That's why everyone keeps living. That's why no one wants to be my friend. So for a typical teenager that hasn't got a good friendship group in school or is not included in anything, there is that mindset of surely there's something wrong with me. That's why all these kids don't want to play with me.
mm,
Surely there's something going on with me. But what we're doing with the affirmation that cancels that particular event or that particular situation is not I am, because it will be difficult to convince someone that has been rejected several times to say I'm
hmm.
accepted. To
Yeah.
me, that's possibly denial. That does not make sense.
Mm, yeah. Yeah.
So instead of saying I'm accepted because all the statistics or all the everything around you is pointing towards the fact that Now you're not accepted here. No,
Mm.
you're not accepted here. So the affirmation that cancels that says, I choose to be enough.
Yeah, yeah.
The same thing with the card that says failure, the affirmation that cancels that says, I choose to be persistent. It's not I am successful, because from all indices, you're probably not in that moment.
Mm.
From all indices, anyone that looks at you from the outside will say, yeah, you probably failed at that. But the affirmation I go to in the phase of failure is not I'm successful. It is I choose to be persistent, because I just believe that it's a matter of how long I keep going. I believe that if this door is shut, I'm going to knock on the other door. And
Mm.
what drives me to do that, where I draw the strength to keep going, is when I make affirmations like I choose to be persistent. So
Mm.
I know that, yes, this looks like failure. Yes, I know that I accept it, that things haven't gone well on this occasion, but I'm going to keep going. I'm going to wake up
Mm.
tomorrow and keep fighting. I'm going to, I am persistent. I'll, each day I wake up, I will choose to be persistent. So that's just the difference. So those are a particular set of words or cards. So each of the cards are designed with a lot of theories, a lot of thought put into it,
Yeah,
and there are
sounds like
reasons,
it.
for that.
Yeah. And I love it because we've gone right back to the beginning of harnessing, not only harnessing power, but also what I was saying about the difference between kind of saying affirmations like they're magic words and actually really believing in it. And you've demonstrated that so brilliantly by saying you can't always say I am, but
Mhm.
you can choose to say I choose to be. And
Yeah.
that has summed it up so well. Sadly, and I think the listeners will be absolutely the same, we've come to the end of the episode. I think we're going to need to get you back on to talk more
Okay.
um, about all that you've done. We do have two final things that we do on the episode, and one of them is just a challenge to the listeners. So I think the challenge today would be, firstly, are you in denial? And if you know that you're in denial and there's something that you need to accept, how can you reach out for help? Is there somebody that you can talk to? Is there a body such as Samaritans or somewhere like that? Do you reach out and make that first step, because that's so important? And secondly, are you in the I am phase or the I choose to be? And could you maybe write that somewhere today, or put it on your phone? I often have things as my phone wallpaper, and really start to change those neural pathways that Richard's been talking about. Have you got anything to add to that challenge, Richard?
No, thank you. That sounds amazing. Thank you.
Um, so yeah, do reach out. We've got our Facebook community, so do reach out or get in touch with Richard and talk to him about how you've been affected by what we've talked about, because we've talked about a lot. It's been brilliant. We come to the very final bit of the podcast, which is where I write you an on the spot poem. So just give me a couple of seconds where I just have a think. An affirmation is a confirmation of what is and what will be. Maybe not something that we can see right now, but somehow saying, I choose to breathe. I choose to breathe life into my life. I choose to harness the power of words so that I can observe and see what there is left and next for me. And then, as I feel strong, I can come alongside others, my sisters, my brothers, who need that affirmation too. And together we become all that we should be. There you go.
Thank you. That's amazing. That's amazing. That was really impactful. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard, so much for your time. I'm so glad. It was absolutely worth all the text backwards and forwards to get this sorted out, and it's been really God-given. So thank you so much. Is there anything that you need or want to say? We'll be putting all of the stuff about By Your Words on the show notes, but is there anything you want to say before we finish?
No, that's fine. If anyone has any questions about the card game or wants to get in touch with us, they will always have our contact details, hopefully when this goes out. Thank you for having me.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Richard. We'll talk again soon. Thank you.